Very basics today. If you're not familiar with it, Google Classroom is a part of the Google Education Suite that we have, just like we have docs and emails and things like that. But first, I'm Bev Burns, Keystone AEA. I support science, STEM, post-secondary readiness, and of course, tech integration on the tech team. And then there's the phenomenal Bria Baxter. We'll let her introduce herself.
Yep, so I am Bria Baxter, and this is my 4th year with the agency, and I support tech integration, and also a variety of other roles, including authentic learning and also standards-based education, and just many hats as many of you do. So we wanted this session to be a very entry level. And thank you for filling out that form and indicating where you currently are with Google Classroom, because that kind of helped us gauge and also tailor the session to your needs. So hopefully you can walk out of the session today familiar with the platform of Google Classroom and comfortable with adding students and getting your courses set up.
And anytime as we're going through, Bria and I will be monitoring the chat. This is very much just kind of showcasing. We're going to do a really quick demo of each of these. There won't be a lot of breakout rooms and conversation. We just really wanted to showcase the tool itself as we're going through. But please, if you have questions or how things work, please put that in the chat. I know some of you don't have chats or audio that is working, so we want to make sure that we accommodate for that too. All right. So with that, Bria Baxter, are we ready to go?
I think we're ready to rock and roll.
All right. So let's just go through some of the different things. I tried to send this out to folks last night. We just wanted to go through some very basics like Bria was talking about that were a request of some of the things in the Google form. So first things first, let's go over to actually starting a Google Classroom. Like I said, Google Classroom is a part of your Google Suite. So you do have to be a Google school in order to use Google Classroom. Some other unique things, let's just kind of take a look. So in order to find it, all you do is go to Google, and with that little grid at the very top right next to your profile icon, you can see you have all of the different features of Google that you're able to use. So if we scroll down just a little bit more, mine happens to be here, yours might be in a different space. But if you just click on Google Classroom, it should launch in a new window for you. Give it a second. And this is what your home page looks like. Since you're in a Google domain, just by clicking that button, it should pop up for you, adding to your Google Classroom. Now, to add a class, to start a brand new class, all you do is click the plus button at the very top, and you have 2 options. So if you are joining a class, let's say Bria is teaching a class that I want to take, and she's in the Keystone domain, and so she will give me a class code and say, hey, Bev, you should sign up. Or she can just add me because she knows I'll take it. And we'll show you those later. So when you ask students to join a course, they can join with a class code, and we'll talk about that. Or in this case, you want to create a class. So when you go through and create a class, it's going to ask you, of course, to name it. The important part is, as a high school teacher, if you have multiple sections of the same course, make sure that you label it by the section that it is, because there's a cool feature in here where you can copy assignments to multiple sections. And so having those sections delineated is going to be very important. And then you can put the subject and the room itself. All right, I already have my classroom set up, so I'm just going to go through and launch that. All right. So those are the steps in creating the course. Very simple, by just clicking that plus button in the top right. So let's go through just some of the things that we have at the top. Bria, do you want to talk about how we can get our students added?
Yes, absolutely. So there are a couple of different ways that we can go about this. So notice how at the top it says that we have that Google Classroom PD section 1 and then class code. So you can make that bigger by clicking on that square. And so students would go to Google Classroom within their Google Suite, just as Bev did. And the students would click on join a class and then enter in this code. And that is one way in which students can enroll in your class. The other way is if, as a teacher, you input all of the students. So notice at the top, we have those 4 different words, and one of them is people. So if you go to people, notice we have teachers there, and there is that person with a plus sign. That means you can add a co-teacher. So let's say you have a co-teaching partnership in your classroom. You can both have equal access and roles within the class. So you would want to add that teacher and if you click the plus sign, you can add them by email. Same with students. So if we click on that person with the plus sign, you can just type in the name or email, and if you type in the name, the email should pre-populate, and then you can also enter in students that way. If you are in a secondary setting, it might be easier just to have them type in that class code, and then you won't have to go through and add every student individually. So another thing that we want to show you is that behind the Google Classroom PD, there is an image. So you can also personalize these according to the type of class that you're teaching. So right where Bev has her cursor now, it is select theme. And if you click on that, you can see all of the different options that you have and the different categories at the top. So you can have a different one for every single class that you teach or are using Google Classroom for. Now the other option, which is kind of cool, is you have the option to upload a photo. So let's say you want to use a picture of your classroom or something, maybe your class together, if you have a class photo, or the school logo, things like that. So let's maybe back up and kind of go through that again. I see that we have a question within the chat. So just to reiterate, when we go into Google Classroom, so as a teacher, and you see at the top, we have those 4 tabs. So stream, classwork, people, and grades. And under stream, so this is what you're going to see right away when you log into Google Classroom. And we have that code at the way top. So right under section 1 says class code. So that is how students can enter the class by typing in that code. And then the other way is going then to people.
Yep. So Bria, let's take a look. I do have a demo student up over here, if you don't mind. Let's kind of walk through what we were just looking at. So from the student side, they're logged into their email address, and they're going to do the same thing. They go to Google Classroom. It should be a part of the grid that we have there. Okay, so remember, we're looking at this from the student side right now. They can go through join a course. So for them, when they click that button, they're going to join class, and they are going to type this right there. So from the student side, that class code goes right there. So let me show you where they did that again. I'm going to cancel. And we click the plus button. The student is going to click the plus button, and they're going to enter the class code that you gave them. And we found that class code right over here on the top toolbar of your Google Classroom. Okay, so I have already enrolled as a student in this one, and now we can see from the student side, it looks fairly similar to the teacher side, but of course they have some different features we'll go into.
Any questions up to this point? We doing okay? Catherine, I appreciate you utilizing the chat, please, and feedback from others too. If we're going too fast, this session is for you, so please let us know.
Yeah. So those are the two ways that you're going to add your students, just like Bria had said. You can give them the class code, and I just kind of showed you the join button. If you choose to add the people on your own, you just add their email account. All right, any other questions with that one? Okay. For this one, so we've gone through personalizing the logo itself, but now we want to go into settings, because one thing that Google Classroom does, it sends you a lot of notifications. All right. So we wanted to share just a couple of things. Your class code will always be here. Now, let's say that you have 2 different semesters you're going to be teaching and 2 different groups of students. You can unenroll them from your course. You could copy the course. Or let's say that you've had that code has gotten out. You can also reset it. Or once everyone is in your course, you can actually disable it. So once the cutoff, the registration cutoff has happened, you can just disable it. You can still add students manually, but that just makes sure that they cannot auto-enroll. So they can't auto-enroll a friend who might be taking it next semester or something like that. So just kind of thinking about that. And right now we're just into the general settings for your course. And to find that, it's the little gear at the very top right. So that class code, you're also going to want to fill this out. Now you can always change this based on assignment. So right now with the stream is anything that is posted. It's very similar to what we would see on Facebook or Twitter. It's a constant stream of information. So you can actually have the default set so that students can comment only teachers can post or comment, or students can post and comment. Well, what does that mean? Right now, I have it, as you can see, students can post and comment. So they can add comments to the stream that the whole class can see. If I disable that, only a teacher can post the comment, and I refresh this. Now I'm the only one, well, let it give it some time, but I would be the only one who could post to the stream. So it really depends on how you want to manage that stream, if you want them to be able to contribute on their own, or if you want that just to be teacher posted information.
And you can think of that stream as that communication hub. So
Yep.
that's kind of what that stream is used for. So every time the teacher adds something to the class, it will show up there as well.
Yeah. The other thing that Google Classroom has is you can actually launch a video session with students. This is a link that is specific to your Google Classroom. So when you launch it, right now I don't have it visible to students, but they can join you. It's kind of like a Zoom feature, but it's just integrated right into your Google. If I were to turn that on to make it so that students can see it, it will show up at the very top of that toolbar so that they can engage. You can also, I'm going to click save here quick. You can also launch it from the very front. Oh, I turned it off. You know, I'm so awesome.
Okay, so Beth, could we make sure, so really where we are right now and kind of what we're doing, the purpose of right now is just if you follow along, you don't need to repeat and try to go and do the same things that we're doing. We're just showing the features that are available on the teacher side right now. So to get to settings again, could you show us, Beth?
Yep. So settings are the gear at the very top.
Mhm.
So I'm on the teacher side. Okay. When you click on that, you get to class details. And then you can start to personalize some of the settings that you have. Now in this section, we're not going to go over grading quite yet. That's a little more robust when we set up those. But for right now, we'll focus on just the general. And then if you want to enable Meet, It's kind of like a Zoom. That is up to you. All right. How are we doing on settings? All right.
So if we want to go into the notifications too, Bev, as a teacher, to see the different notifications that you're going to get, for example, an email every time, that is in the different part of the settings, right? So if we go to those 3 lines to the left-hand side yep, and then we go down to the bottom and go to settings, this will be the notifications that you get as a teacher. So notice that automatically everything is posted to you will get a notification, and that can be very overwhelming. So if you want to look at what each of those are, you can toggle them on and off, and then you can control then the emails that you get from Google Classroom.
Like Bria said, it will send an email for every little thing that's done, every post. It's really up to you what you want to be notified of that kids are doing.
And what Bev showed too is you can just, if you don't want any of those, you can just toggle email off, and then you just won't get any of those notifications. But if you would like to personalize, if you'd like to get some emails, for example, if a student submits a late assignment, then you could keep that one on and turn all the others off.
Anything else that you can see? All right, so settings, notifications, because your email will be very popular every day with Google Classroom prompts. So let's go into those tabs at the top. So I'm going to go back to my Google Classroom class. And Bria, let's kind of talk through the different tabs across the top.
Yep, so we kind of touch base on the stream. Remember, that is your communication hub. You have the option to let students post things if they want, or you could also disable that setting. If you would like to share something with your class, they would log on, and the first thing that they see is the stream. And then also, you can notice here, Bev has been adding some assignments, and so that is what you're seeing in the stream currently. So you can set it for just the teacher can have posts, or students could have the posts. For the classwork, and we're going to spend some time here because this is where the bulk of your time will be as a teacher. And so in order to organize yours, notice how Bev already put some things into our classwork, and you see writing, how has the earth changed? What's really nice about that is it is helping us organize the content. And in order to do that, you go to the create, and then you can go to topic. And so that is how she came up with those. So you can think about the content of your class and think about what those main themes could be. And then if she wants to reorganize anything, you notice those 3 dots to the right-hand side, and you can just drag and move them. So it's really easy. If something was in the wrong spot, you can just drag it to the location that you want that assignment to be. So I highly recommend using the topics. And then if we go up to the top, when we click on create again, we have other options as well. So we can create, you have assignments, a quiz assignment. The difference between the assignment and quiz assignment is if you go to the quiz assignment, it is going to automatically create a Google form for you. And notice that at the bottom, it says blank quiz right now. So you can quiz students within Google Forms, and it's automatically going to go into your Google Classroom. So let's just click on that really quick. I know we're kind of getting a little bit more into the weeds, but I want to show you just really quick how it looks if you want to have them self-grade it. So if we just wanted to quickly type in a couple, like what day is today, and then we can just do like Monday, Tuesday, or something like that. And then we'll just stop there. This might be something that you want. Notice how there says the answer key at the bottom. We can click on that and we can put in the correct day, so Monday, and then we can issue however many points we want that question to be worth. So 1 point, and then done. And then, so that's how we're going to actually create then the quiz for this course. And it would self-grade it. So it's a really good formative assessment check for the students to see where they currently are in terms of the content. So if we go back to the classwork, remember that was just created automatically because we went into the assignment quiz. So we will get out of that.
And Bria, one thing, it's kind of a newer feature, but if you have Chromebooks, you can actually lock the form so that they can't open another tab. It only works on Chromebooks though.
Kind of lock it down a little bit for them. Make sure they aren't using those other resources in Google. Okay, so we had one question. So can you repeat how to get into the quiz? So again, that was the create button at the top. And when you go to quiz assignment, it just automatically creates that quiz. So to edit it, we just click on the quiz. And this is probably a new one, right? We probably would have had to then type, but you just go to the assignment quiz, and then it'll pre-populate that Google form and you can click on that. Okay, so that is one of the options. Notice that there are other options, and so we're going to give just a quick overview of each of those. Notice on the upper right-hand side right now, let's say we want to make a quiz, but we don't want students to be able to see it right away. You have the option to schedule it. So let's say you're creating a quiz right now, but you don't want students to see it until Friday. You can click then the date. Yep. So right now, Bev just changed it to May 1st, and then you can also change the time. So if you want it to be 8 o'clock, if it's right away in the morning, or if your class doesn't start till 10 o'clock, then you can also change it to 10 o'clock. So it's really nice how they have that feature there. So you're able to schedule it and also save as a draft. So let's say you know right now a few questions that you want to put in on the quiz, but you don't want it published because it's not done, and you know you want to edit it for later, then you can keep it in that draft form and students cannot see it then. So that one was our assignment quiz. And if we click on the create, there are also just an assignment. And so Bev, do you want to talk through, you put together some assignments on our classwork so far?
Sure. So when we go through and create a new assignment, we would do it in the exact same way that Bria was just talking about. So one of the assignments I'm going to do is a choice board. Okay. I can give students additional instructions here, but you can add assignments from two different ways. So when we do an attachment, it will automatically search your Google Drive. You can also add links to websites. You can upload files from your desktop, or you can add a YouTube video directly in. But for this one, I'm just going to go to that choice board. That did not work how it was supposed to. Hold on. So let's go to the assignment choice board. I'm going to add it from Google Drive. So what it'll do as a teacher, it just searches your Google Drive. So for right now, I'm going to go to Science Choice Board. Choice boards are nice just simply because they give all of the different links in one spot, especially for our earlier learners. So once we have an assignment, you can also create one right there. But right now I've added one that I pre-made from my Google Drive. The neat thing about this is right now, students can only view a file. So this is similar to if you just share a link to a Google Doc with them and they have view only. What Google Drive or what Google Classroom will do is it will change those permissions for you. So the second option that it has is students can edit the file. So this means every student in your class has editing rights to, in this case, the Google Doc that I've shared. The last one, it makes an individual copy for every student and it puts it in a shared folder between you and the student. So you don't have to worry about them sharing things back and forth. It automatically makes a copy in the class folder. So I'm just going to click there. Now you can change all of the different pieces, but let's say that this assignment, I want to make sure that it's with all of the sections that teach science or that I teach in science. So I just choose from the click, I can choose every course. Remember, we had you break it down into sections. I can now add this assignment to all of those different courses and it'll show up, okay? So to do that, you just click at the very top. You should see the one that you're teaching at the top or the one we're editing currently, and then some other sections that you teach, all right? You can also show, let's say that with this course, or with this assignment, I want it to be a differentiated assignment. So I can share this with all students, or I can choose which student this resource goes to. Okay, so I'm gonna just uncheck all students and I just want user one to really have the choice board because this is maybe an accommodation or maybe it's just group work that we have them doing. All right, once you have that selected, I'm actually gonna add it to all students. You can click assign, just like Bria had talked about before. You can schedule it, save it as a draft, or if you just want to delete it, you can do that too. So I'm just going to click assign. And it will populate right to the stream that we saw on the first page. Okay, Bria, questions that we have.
Can we also do that with quizzes? Can quizzes also be copied to different courses? So if I'm teaching 2 sections of science, can I have both of those go to the same or go to both of those sections?
Yeah, so let's go back to the one Bria had just set up for us. This is that quiz that she had us set up. It's the same feature off to the side. And we can decide all students or not. This one I've already saved.
Is it because we scheduled it?
No, because Google Forms have different spreadsheets and the gradebook is going to be linked to that specific course. So let's try it. Let's go back to quiz assignment. So before you assign it, don't assign it. So before you assign it, you have to copy it over to the different courses. Once it's assigned, it doesn't, that's a great question. It doesn't look like you can go back and decide you want other classes to have that same one. It's a great question. Look at that. What else we got, Bria?
Kind of comparing to the folders in Schoology, that would be similar to the topics in our Google Classroom.
Yep. And you have to remember that Google Classroom is not a learning management system like Schoology is. It doesn't have the robust features. Classwork is probably the best way that you're going to get any type of static organization of content. Google Classroom also doesn't have any metrics, so you can't click on a student and see maybe how long they've been logged on or if they've clicked on an assignment. Those things are just not in Google Classroom. It's more of a content management tool versus what is typically called a learning management tool. So just a couple of, those are major differences between a Schoology versus a Google Classroom type of, where you have the more of the stream feature.
So if the classes are at different clock times, we could still use Classroom and still give them the same quiz, as long as we give them the quiz or we assign the quiz to the multiple sections before we hit that assign.
Yep.
So, yep, we just have to do it before we assign it to the class. And then we put it to multiple. Also, when we are on that classwork tab, if you're ever wondering where things went, automatically it is saved to the class drive folder. So notice that it is up there at the top. When we click on class drive folder, this will be everything that has been created within that class. So if you're trying to find anything again, you'll be able to click on that folder and see. Okay, there we go. So all those times we clicked the quizzes to show, they're all there. So then we can go through and actually delete them if we want to. And if we go up to the top two, which is nice, we can talk through some of those other things you added, Bev, because I see the choice board, the journal choice, and templates.
Yeah, so it has a bunch of different things. Like you saw me add to the choice board. What's neat about this is, remember, I set this up so everybody had a copy of it. And so this is where that assignment goes. So as the teacher, it made a copy for every student that's in my class. And this is where the teacher goes so that they can see where those went. So they can see by the names of it, it automatically names them with their first name and last name, and then the assignment itself. So as a teacher, I can click on this, and now this is a shared document between me and my student, in this case, Mindy Reimer. All right, and it just functions now just like a Google document would. So that conversation, now you can add comments like you've done before. But what Google Classroom did was really help us with that sharing feature and organization. It automatically made copies for each person and reshared it with them. All right, so I do want to take a look at, let's go over to the student side while we're working with the assignment piece. I'm just going to scroll down to some different assignments that we had. Now we noticed that that journal choice is there. I've got it open over here. So as a student, I've been engaging in it and working on it. Now when students have the assignment showing, they have a couple of options. So the first thing is, you can talk to your teacher using private comments. So these are comments that just go to the teacher. Help, I don't understand. All right, so that student is sending a private comment over to me as the teacher. It's also showing what that journal choice was. So this was going to an assignment. So this is the assignment that I had shared with students. All they do is click on that very top button that has the resource. So this is what they need to work on. This is a little different than what we had before. So anytime you assign something within Google Classroom, it'll show up on the right as assigned. So as a student, I'm going to click on it. So this is my essay. Let's say that I'm done. Notice this is a new button for students to turn in the assignment, that means they want to submit it to me as the teacher. They have to click the turn in button. That tells me as the teacher that they are ready to be assessed. Okay, they get the warning, are you sure? Yes, I would like to turn it in. So now you can see that students can go back. They don't have that question of, did I turn in my assignment? It says it right here. If they want to, they can still go back and unsubmit it. And so it kind of gives them that flexibility, but it also shows to them, yes, I submitted it to the teacher. All right, Bria, what questions do we have?
Just one more thing to add, Bev. You can think of that as like a physical piece of paper. So if a student was working on a poster and they currently are in possession of it, you as a teacher could not grade it because you don't physically have that poster. Now, if they click turn it in, then they turned it in and now you have it, and they can't edit it unless they unsubmit it. So you can't both have it at the same time. So if you are grading, you are able to go through and add grades, but then you can also submit I can't remember exactly what the verbiage is, but return work, and then all the students are going to see the work at the same time. So it's not like you grade it or add in your comments and they can automatically see it, because you have to then click return to them.
Yeah, and so to find that feature, this is over on grades. I have my assignment that we did, and as user one, remember I just turned this in. So you can view the submission. It takes the teacher right to that assignment. You can also see the private comments that they had on this assignment. Help, I don't understand. And you can have a private conversation going back and forth with them. The nice thing is that it's internal to it's internal. So now once they have that assignment, you can start assessing. So let's say that, man, that essay is great. You still have all of the features that you would like. Oops. On your basic Google Doc, okay? The other thing is you can kind of change it just like we have on Google. Maybe you want to suggest some edits. Maybe you want to fully edit. For me personally, if I was looking at students writing, I would probably suggest or simply make comments like you would. So like Bria was talking about too, I'm done now revising this or giving my comments, okay? It also has a comment bank that you can go through. So you don't have to directly add it to the Google Doc. So if I want to add to the bank, this is wonderful. I can keep adding them. Usually you would highlight the text. You can add the comment there, add to the comment bank, new comment, and you just keep going through and adding. Okay. So the grading tab, a comment tab, and then we have to return it to the student. So you return this submission if I just want to return user one because I'm done, or if you want to return everything. So once you are done maybe assessing everyone in your course, you can return multiple submissions. So I just want to return to that user, and it's sending it back, okay? And they'll see that under their grades tab. All right, Bria.
Yeah, so yep, good questions that we have. So thinking about how parents can view student work. So is there an easy way to link Seesaw without having students post to two different forums? So would you recommend, Bev, using Google Classroom and Seesaw in conjunction in the same class, or would you advise using one or the other?
Seesaw and Google Classroom are very similar platforms, right, Bria? So they both have their stream. I would choose one or the other. Google Classroom, it's not showing up on our domain, but right here, it should say email parent or guardian. And it should have you, and I'll look into this one. There is a teacher or a parent feature. It's classroom updated, and I'm not sure where to find that right now. But I would choose one or the other, Seesaw or Google Classroom. What are your thoughts?
And the way it's set up, I would think that Seesaw would be a better platform if you're wanting that feature of parents to be able to see the student work. It seems like that one is very much embedded, but I'm not familiar with the update with Google Classroom. But I agree, they're very similar, but they're different programs. So I would use one or the other. I hope that that helped. Please keep the questions coming, and if that wasn't clear, please let us know.
Yeah, and we can share out to like the parent access
Mhm.
to Google Classroom update, or maybe, yeah, just an update on that too. I was not finding it today. All right, so we've kind of talked a little bit about the stream. The stream is just everything that's been posted, which can be very overwhelming for students. As Bria was talking about, just making sure that they go to classwork. I'm going to get out of my teacher side. I'm going to go back over to my students because I think how we organize their classwork is so important. So when we click on classwork, they can use the topic filters here. Like right now, if we're just doing the unit on writing, I can click on writing and it cleans it up. So it's not so overwhelming for them. And every resource that we have put in that section is there. And again, as a teacher, you can organize these so that they make the most sense sequentially for students as they're going through. All right, so just training them to be more on the classwork side. Personally, I would love if they flip those two tabs. So it comes to classwork first. Unfortunately, no, because a lot of them do get lost in the stream. The other thing that the students have on their side is a to-do. So if you have lots of different classes, let's say that this student has 6 classes throughout the day, it's a high school student, they can pull down and it shows every to-do that they have and when that due date is set, which is really kind of neat. And let's say that they just want, okay, I need to focus on Ms. Baxter's class today. So I'm just going to go to Google Classroom, what's due? And they can just see what's due there, or they can see the list of what's actually due throughout.
Yeah, so we have a couple other good questions. So can we attach a grading rubric to the grading portion?
You bet. So let's go back. To my class. I'm gonna go back to teacher. So anytime that you have an assignment, so let's go back to our assignment that we had. So I have a choice board. That was an assignment. Just gonna go back and edit that. At the very bottom, you're going to see that you can add a rubric. You have some options. You can create the rubric here, just based on what you're looking for. If you have a rubric that you've already used, saved in your Google Drive, you can reuse a rubric. Or if you have one created in Google Sheets, you can automatically import that. So when you go through, this is the create a rubric section. I want to turn scoring on, turn scoring off. You decide. And then you just set up the criterion. For me, this we could set this up, uses a wide variety of evidence to support claim. Okay. The criterion description, what is going to be proficient for this? And then how many points do they get for that? So let's say that it's 5. Level title, don't usually use that. You can click across. So let's say you have a 4-point scale for your rubric. That's what the little pluses are for. So this is 5, this could be a 4. So if you're a standards-based school, a 3, a 2, typically they don't go below a 1, but if you do, certainly. So you could talk about the level title, like highly proficient or proficient. And then the description is the criteria within that rubric. So for that criterion that we gave, so uses a wide variety of evidence support the claim, what would a 5 look like? A 4, a 3, and a 2. So we add that here to the description. And then for the next criterion, you do the same thing. Uses correct grammar and punctuation, possibly. Uses claim evidence, reasoning, writing format. Whatever we've studied in class that we're assessing on, we can add to that rubric. When you're done, you can click Save. Oh, you have to fill in all the red. But after you're done, you would go through and click Save, and the students would automatically have the rubric attached to that assignment. Questions?
Yeah, so we have, I'm not sure when the question, where is this found? When that one was there, but it's just within the assignment. So you'd click on an assignment and then you have the option then to edit that rubric. Now, if you have a rubric already printed off that you want to use, or one that's on the computer as a file, then you can just add the file to it so students can access the rubric as they are completing the project. So that's helpful too. You don't have to use that rubric feature on Google Classroom, but it's nice that they have their own embedded one. Is Seesaw free? Yes, there is a free version of Seesaw. What we usually recommend is Seesaw for more of the younger learners. So really that elementary and below. It could be used older, but just typically teachers use that with the younger students, whereas this sort of platform is more for the older students. There was a question here about special education at the elementary level. So any suggestions on how to use Google Classroom, or would it be better to use Seesaw?
I think it depends on, for me, selfishly, if elementaries have iPads, Seesaw is beautiful. Simply because it allows for you to use fine motor skills, especially within their writing. There's a draw feature. You can share links with them, and it's very succinct. You're not setting up some of the different things that we have here where they have more choice to click on. Seesaw, the stream itself, like I said, is very succinct. It's meant for a limited sharing of information that is whole group. And you're pushing out information to them, and then they're creating different things. So it has the 6 features of Seesaw, like the draw, the link, the video. I can't think of the other 3 right now, but there are 6. Just very simple, simple to see. So depending on what you're looking for students, if you want them actually writing on things and annotating, Seesaw is a great option for that. Google Classroom is really when you're starting to, I always like to talk about it, especially for upper elementary, is you are preparing students now for an LMS, which we typically see in middle school and high school, because it's starting to organize content like we saw off to the left-hand side. When we talk about a learning management system, they do have a lot of different things to learn, and Google Classroom can be a great scaffold for maybe 4th and 5th grade as you're going through, because it gives them some of the autonomy, and it works really well on a laptop, which we typically also see at the older grades. Google Classroom works well on the iPad too, so there is an app for that. So just a lot of different features that it has. You also have students who are maybe doing more word processing, where that class drive is a really value add feature. The other thing that it has is Google Calendar. I know a lot of our schools are using Google Calendars as what we would typically have as a planner. And so if that's the case, students are automatically enrolled in your Google Classroom's calendar, so they can start to see all of the different things that that might be happening that day. So it really kind of helps them on lots of different ways in starting to organize their life a little bit too, so they can add their personal things, but it also populates any assignments that they might have.
So we just gave a very brief, like big overview of Google
Yeah.
Classroom. If anyone has any more questions, so there is another one from Stephanie. So if we were to grade an essay with a rubric, would the rubric show up in each student's essay, or would we need to flip back and forth between the essay and the rubric tabs?
You would flip back and forth between the two tabs. Usually they're side by side, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so we also wanted to feature some programs and how Google Classroom is an option to add content. So this is kind of like that next level. I know some of you were kind of familiar with Google Classroom and you wanted to know some other neat ways to use it. So we're going to kind of go over some of that. But please ask any more questions too in the chat. We're always here too. So if after the session you think of another question, please ask us. You know our emails, so please make sure to reach out and ask for help too. So we'll kind of go over this, then we'll hang on towards the end too if there's any more specific questions.
Yeah, and I know we're kind of going a little quickly, but I'm hoping it prompts some questions that maybe Bria and I can do one-on-one follow-up with, which will be a really great start to getting you started. So one of the things that was also a talking point on your registration form was, well, I have students that maybe speak a different language than English, or maybe I need some assistive technology supports. One of the things that we talk through are a lot of the sites have what's called Add to Google Classroom. Within our digital resources, there are also quite a few of them. And for this one, NBC Learn is a great one to share videos directly. Of course, ScienceFlix is another one. And I'm just going to take a look at a ScienceFlix simply because of that conversation we were having about how do I support students who maybe are at different reading levels. So let's take a look at one called Geologic Time. And when you come into a ScienceFlix, it's the same thing for a TrueFlix. Students can watch it, read it, dive deeper. As we go into, let's go into read it. You notice off to the right-hand side, you can change the readability of them. So let's say that I do a readability of a 1, and this is a middle school, upper elementary, 4th grade, and 6th grade is where Geologic Time lives in the science standards. But notice that I can change all of the different reading levels from a 1, a 2, or a 3. This also has a read aloud. So again, we're searching for a site that is accessible to others. So it has the read aloud feature. They can also read it in Spanish. But why we wanted to bring you here was, I also have this little icon that you see on quite a few ed tech tools that you click on it and it sends it to Google Classroom. Now you get to choose which class does it go to. So we want to go to our Google Classroom PD. And in this one, Bria, I'm thinking I want to create maybe an assignment. All right. So just like we saw before, this is going to send it over to Google Classroom. If I click go at the bottom, read through and answer questions. Okay, we've got the instructions. Now I can send it over to them to assign for them to read it. I can also choose, let's say that maybe not every student needs the science flick. I can choose which students maybe it's most appropriate for. And if I'm teaching multiple sections where I want to, maybe a lot of fourth grade science, I can click on every section that I have if we're broken out that way. And then I just click assign. So when the student goes into posting to the course, it becomes the top part of their stream. So sharing content with them is very easy as we're going through. So you can see it's right at the top. They click on it and then they can click here. So if I wanted to read a response, all they do is click here to add or create. They create a document and now they can take notes. You can also add a template. Let's say that you had questions you wanted them to answer. They are able to do that too. All right, so Add to Classroom is kind of one of those features, if you ever see it at the top, and there are a lot of them that have it. Science Flicks from our digital resources is one of them. But what about a Padlet too, Bria?
Yeah, so what is really nice about Padlets, I don't know if some of you are using those currently in your classroom, but if you don't currently have a Padlet account, there is a video that we created just to show you kind of the features of it, and it is grow through what you go through. So that spreadsheet will also have a link to Padlet. But once you create one for your class, if you go up to that share button at the top, you can see that it also says share on Google Classroom. So if you click that, then you can share directly a link to that Padlet within Classroom. So if you wanted your students to access and put information on that Padlet, you could share it to that Google Classroom, and then they wouldn't have to type in the Padlet URL or anything like that. It would take them directly to that Padlet by going to their Google Classroom.
It's pretty neat. No more bit.lys or those shortened URLs are needed, right? They can just send it right there. The last thing I wanted to share too, again, these are getting above the basics a little bit, but super nice to have with Google Classroom. There is an extension for it, and I had sent that in an email that we had yesterday. So no worries about extensions. You do have to have them on Google Chrome, but let's say that that icon isn't on a website that you would like.
ABCs and 1, 2, 3s.
I love BookFlix, especially for our younger students. So there is an extension where you can add it to Chrome and you can add it to your classroom. So don't feel like you have to only have web links. Don't feel that you always have to have web links that or use sites that only have that share to Google Classroom. You can really just copy and paste a link in, or there's these other tools. A different thing, if we were face-to-face with students, what this extension does is you can just push it to students. If you're on the same Wi-Fi, it will just automatically pop up as a notification that Mrs. Burns sent you a link, and they could click on that. That's kind of a cool option. But since we're remote, you have your same features. Create an assignment, and we go through the same process. All right, so lots and lots of different options that we have within Google Classroom, but I want to give you some time to ask more questions that you might have before we sign off for today.
One more thing, Beth. There was a really good question about where to find this content after this session. So we recorded the presentation today, and we're going to add everything onto our website. So we will just show you once you go to Keystone's main website. So this is our homepage, and you go to Educators, and then down to our school technology. And then if you scroll down to the technology in the classroom, you can see content management. So that content management is where we're going to have all of this information under Google Classroom. And so we will just add another tab then there for our recording today. Now, if you're interested in any more, I know we talked a little bit about Seesaw. So let's say you're interested in the Seesaw session. If you teach elementary, that session is being offered on Wednesday, I believe at 10 o'clock. So if you go to that flyer, the Grow Through What You Go Through, there is a registration form on that page too. And I can put the link to that document in the chat. They no longer have the where you click on it and it will automatically pop up. So you do have to copy and paste the link if you are interested in checking that out, what else is available for this week.
Bria, you'll be happy to know this. I updated Zoom yesterday and the links now are clickable again.
Oh,
Update
they
your
are.
Zoom.
I just have to update then.
Yes.
That's wonderful news.
We'll continue also to build out with classrooms. So I do want to share some of the resources that Bria and I have curated just with getting started, because there are so many different things that you can do to get started. So the first one is Google's PD session, and it's very much 1 minute or less on the different features, and it takes you through step by step as to how to set them up. So it just talks about the basics, and they're just different playlists that you have. The second thing is one of my favorite Google Classroom teachers. She's in the classroom. She shares the reality of it, is Alice Keeler. And what she does, she has another playlist we wanted to share with you that has those getting started, just tips and tricks. She also goes into more advanced settings too, once you get more familiar with how it's set up.